the suicidal notes found with known texts by the suicidal, by the victim. Fortunately, I found a letter written by the victim 2 months ago. It is a will to his sons. So I compared the suicide notes with that letter, with the will, in order to provide research-based answers to the questions that have already been raised. The results of the comparison, because owing to the pressure of the press of time, so I cannot, in fact, I don't want to talk too much about this. Well, the form and the content of text B, the non-text, were compared with text A, the disputed text. Below were the major findings. Number one, in both texts, the sentence were very long. The sentence contained about 39 to 40 words each sentence in both texts. Well, the average number of words per sentence was roughly the same, 39 words per sentence in text A and 41 words per sentence in text B. Number two, the words found in both texts, I found that there are certain words which were used in both texts. I found that feel, أشعر, شعور, feeling, suspicion, شك, محبط, disappointed, victim, faithful, honest, innocent, jealous, envious. I found all these words in both texts. Number three, both texts contained, I'm sorry for spelling mistakes. Both texts contained a lot of words in combination, especially binomials and collocation. For example, كد وجهد، حب وتسامح، حسد وغيرة، فشل وخيبة أمل، شك وريبة، صدق وشهامة، جندي أمين. You see, these are binomials and these are collocations. These collocations and binomials were found in both texts. Number four, lexical cohesion. We have different types of cohesion. I paid attention to the lexical cohesion. Lexical cohesion was the most prominent type of cohesion in both texts. Synonyms, near synonymy were extensively used. For example, أمانة وشرف، إخلاص ومثابرة، honor and honesty, not finance, loyalty and perseverance، جهد وكلل، مخلص للوطن مؤمن به، مقت وكراهية, etc. 5. Although the two texts differ in content, text A being a suicide note while text B being a letter of advice or a will, in fact, it seems that text B might be considered as a prelude to text A. You see? As mentioned earlier, text B contained a lot of words and expressions that were also found in text A. A case which indicates that the author was under roughly the same psychological status when reading both texts. When writing, both texts. Conclusion. The major conclusion, from this study is that in both disputed and known texts, the sentences were very long and the number of the words per sentence were almost the same. Binomials and collocations were extensively used, similar expressions having roughly the same meaning. The cohesive ties as well as the types of cohesion were almost the same. The way the topics were introduced, developed, and concluded were roughly similar. And the number of errors and mistakes were very few and similar, especially in the punctuation errors. From these results, one may safely conclude that both texts can be attributed to the same author. So this means that, in this case, it means that the disputed text has been written by the victim. This means that the suicidal was genuine. It means it is written by the deceased. Number two, the linguistic analysis of the form and content of the suicide note showed that the text was highly cohesive and coherent. What does this imply? This implies that the suicide note had not been tampered with wholly or partially. You see? Number three, the suicide note was carefully written with no scrape, erasing, or cancellation, and very few mistakes. This indicates that the author had probably written the notes few days before, or it might be a month, few weeks before the accident, and the last paragraph might be added very shortly before the accident. It also indicates that the note was not written under threat or duress, as the family of the deceased claimed. This linguistic evidence will undoubtedly endorse the external and interpretive evidence in shedding light on the nature of the accident, in verifying the claims that the accident was not an assassination but a suicidal act. In fact, I found that both texts, and especially the suicide note, was highly coherent and cohesive. When someone is under duress, he usually commits mistake. He cannot be coherent in writing, and he rarely uses cohesive devices because he's under threat. So from these, I may claim that the suicide note was written by the suicidal, by the victim. Number one, it has not been tampered with, and it has not been written under duress. Well, let's now move to another topic in forensic linguistics: language crimes. As I have just said, in crimes, in offenses, we usually pay attention to the physical act. In assassination, in murder, in larceny, in manslaughter, in all these things, we pay attention to the physical act. But there are certain cases in which language is the only evidence for the offense. Okay? These are called language crimes. So these are crimes in which language is the major, if not the only evidence offered by the prosecution. This definition is taken from Choi 1993. Well, what's the contribution of the linguist in language crimes? Just as how physician sees things in an X-ray which cannot be seen by a lay person, the same applies to the linguist. Here, the linguist can see and hear something which is, or which might be, invisible or unknown to the layperson. When listening, for example, to a tape or a conversation, the linguists is or might be able to identify how words are pronounced, the intonation contours, the rise and fall of voice, recycling, reiteration, the use of certain junctures, pauses, intonation markers, pause length, rhythm, errors, collocation, topic developments. When a linguist approaches a text whether it is written or spoken.